Hello everyone, my name is ruubzy, and in this video I'll give you some tips on how to go from inspiration to Minecraft building. I was browsing Pinterest the other day and stumbled across this picture. Personally, I quite like the simplicity of this structure, and in this case, because the picture is in black and white, it allowed me to use my imagination on what colors to use and be creative with it. And since I had never really built something super colorful before, I really wanted to try my hand at that. By the way, if you're interested on how you can find inspiration for your Minecraft builds, I have made a video a few months ago on that topic, which you can check out in that little corner over there. Why do I hear chickens? They are so culprit. Anyways, with finding inspiration, the gist of it is, if you're using Pinterest, I try to look for inspiration that isn't a Minecraft structure. Something along the lines of concept art or architectural plans tend to work best for me, since it leaves shapes up to my interpretation, and when looking at actual Minecraft structures for inspiration, I tend to pretty much copy the building block for block. With that out of the way, the video you're watching right now is mostly me explaining my thought process and trying to teach you something along the way. So let's get into it, shall we? Just as a quick reminder, we are using this picture as inspiration, and because I want to give you a plan to work with, the first step would be to figure out the shape of the building. In this phase, I'll decide on where in the world I'm going to place this tower, as well as how big it should be. It's important, for me at least, to not really focus on the details in this stage, because otherwise, if you are like me, you'll get way too invested in the details and lose sight of the building in its entirety. For this tower, I figured that it should be octagonal, meaning that it has 8 sides, with some sort of thin inner layer. When you look at the inspiration, you can see that there are a few arches on the bottom part of the tower, one of which is leading towards the door. The rest of the shape is actually quite simple. The main focal points of this building are the arches we just looked at, this part over here that seems to reduce the width of the tower, then there's the long middle section, and finally the top of the tower that grows outwards again. So a very basic replica of this shape looks a little something like this in Minecraft. Now that the shape is in order, the next step would be to figure out what kind of building blocks we're using. Since I wanted to make this tower very colorful, I chose around 20 different kinds of blocks, but please note that you do absolutely not need to do this. Let me give you a quick example. Behind me, you're currently getting a little sneak peek of it, is the tower that we're building in this video, but this one, instead of being really vibrant and colorful, is built with a few less blocks and more approachable. It's mostly grey, to be honest. So you are getting a small sneak peek of what the actual tower is sort of going to look like with the details inside. So yeah, spoiler alert, I'm sorry. But then again, you've seen the thumbnail, let's be honest here. So this one mainly uses 4 different types of blocks, that being the tough bricks, stone bricks going up into stone, and then all the way at the tippy top going into andesite, to get a really subtle fade from dark to light. Then for the bits of detail, what I did is I used mainly mossy cobblestone, because it out of itself looks quite crumbled, and made the hole over here, which I'll do in the actual building itself as well as on the little archway down there as per the inspiration. And then what I also did to get a little more detail in this particular building, because otherwise it still looks kind of flat with just like a simple color palette like this, is I broke off a few bits of the tower over here and then filled them up with cobblestone walls and mossy cobblestone walls, as well as just spread a few cobblestone and mossy cobblestone in the tower itself to make it look like it's even more crumbled. And of course, the same thing goes for the actual tower. I didn't finish the back. That seems to be a trend with Minecraft YouTubers. And down here I've also added rocks, but you'll see more of that on the actual building. Let's go back to that. So continuing with the tower we're actually focusing on today, I really wanted to try and fade colors into each other. So I chose to go from a very dark purple in obsidian towards cyan, and from there go through the greens towards yellow in the usage of bamboo, and then finally topping it off by going from the yellow to a bright white with the stripped pale oak wood. This way we get a huge amount of color, as well as with the other example I just showed you, going from a dark to a light. Meaning that when looking at this tower, it sort of automatically draws your eyes upwards. And that's not me just saying that, that's like actual science. Placing all of these different blocks and trying to nicely fade them into each other was quite a difficult and tedious process, but I do think that in the end it works pretty well. Some parts may look a bit odd, especially from close by, but at least from afar, I think it looks really quite cool. So now that we have this thing colored, it is time for the last step, being detailing. This step can take super long and requires a lot of trial and error, but it is absolutely worth it to get a stunning end result. Detailing in my books entails the finishing touches of a building. In this stage I figured out what to do with the rim over here and the rim at the top of the tower, and since I wanted to make the building a bit ruined, like the tower from the inspiration, I tried to sort of recreate the shapes of the broken off part. I did this using some mossy cobblestone walls, as with the other example, the block itself looks crumbled out of itself, and I felt like with all of the colors we've used, this one didn't really pop out that much. Actually, I did use diorite at the top of the tower because the white blends well with the diorite. The walls also bring a tiny bit of depth to the building, making sure the pieces of wall actually look crumbled off. As for the inside part of the tower, I wasn't really sure what this would be exactly, but I did know that I wanted to make it look like the tower is being renovated, which is why I opted to fill it in with big wooden beams to kind of simulate some scaffolding. Then for the last step, I tried to bring the structure and the surrounding area together a bit more. Once again, when we take a look at the inspiration, we see that this tower has a few big rocks up against it. This is something I wanted to replicate, so I made a few of these rocks. And I'm sort of trying to shape them up towards the tower, which is quite difficult to explain because these are organic shapes, but I pretty much just shaped the rocks like this. Sadly, the replay mod cuts out there, but all I did after is make the ground out of coarse dirt, mostly in order to make the rocks stand out a bit more. And I also made a little pathway towards the tower out of mud bricks and I think that's brown mushroom block. Let's actually get rid of this little tower over here. This was just for explaining this very video. That was quite a satisfying noise. Anyways, all of that work brings us over here with this end result. And I think it looks pretty nice. Especially from further away, when all of the details from the blocks themselves kind of fade away a little bit. It really fades into one color to the other. When we zoom in, especially at like the copper bulbs or the bamboo over here, it can look a little bit weird. But that is pretty much all there is to it. Really, getting inspiration and building something in Minecraft, it isn't as difficult as you might expect. So if you want it, here's a little challenge for you. Find some inspiration, it could be from anything, search on Pinterest, maybe a building from your favorite game. Whatever it is, just don't make it someone else's Minecraft building. And try to build it inside of Minecraft. Then you can come to the Discord, which there is a link for in the description, and show the building to me and the other members of the group. Keep in mind that it is a very, very small community as of right now, but I hope to grow that in the future. That will be all from me for today. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like as well. And if you learned something and want to see more of these kinds of videos, make sure to subscribe and perhaps leave a comment. I hope to see you here again for the next video, but until then, take care and goodbye.